Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys stopping by real quick. So I have the round 14 game for you between Levon Aronian and Wesley So. So I'm just kind of going through picking some games out. I believe there was like 8 or 9 games or something like that, 10 games that were played right now. So it's like, you can't do all of them. So I'm just kind of breezing through, seeing what I want to choose out of there. So this is taken from round 14. So for all of my people in the Philippines, as always, mabuhay, kamusta na, mabuting pagbati, and I think that I can get all of the good mornings all the way done. I just did it a second ago off camera, but I'm gonna see if I can just get all the way through it, and that'll be the first time in history I did it. But for anybody who is coming from Armenia, vok juven to you, and merci for coming by and taking a look at my video. Anybody from France, merci beaucoup, mes amis. Appreciate it very much. If you guys are ready to go, let's see what we got for this game. So we got e4, e5. Knight comes to f3. We see knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop c5, and then we see d3. Now we have the Juco piano, the Juco pianissimo. But as you guys know, sometimes these games can be really quiet, but a lot of the times they're loud. They're all over the place, kind of crazy. So we'll see what we have. We got knight coming to f6. We see we see castles by white. I don't know what I'm talking about, bishop. Like, there's no bishops. No. Anyway, we got h6, c3. We got d6. Rook comes to e1. Castles by black. Knight b to d2. So this is all real standard stuff. Like, this is stuff that's been seen many times before. So moving on. We see bishop to b6. We got bishop down to b3. We have a5. And then we see knight to f1, and knight to f1 is the novelty of the game. It's pretty, as you guys know, knight b to d2 is not like the most ideal square for the knight to be at. So the knight really wants to either be like here or something like that. I mean, it's not really, it's just kind of blocking the bishop right there. So, you don't want it to be doing all of that. So you got to move it out of the way. So bishop comes to e6. We see bishop bound to c2. White wants to preserve their bishop. They have like a lot of scope coming up over here. So, go ahead and keep that on the board. We see d5. As you guys see, black and white both have the ability to play, d4, d5 situations, because they are trying to push and make their own claim for the center of the board. So, it's a real common pawn break to make. So pawn takes d5. We see queen takes d5. As you guys see, of course, you can't just simply take back here with a piece because you're going to be dropping a pawn. So if you like took with a knight or something, you're going to be dropping the whole pawn. So you don't want to do that because this is just going to be a really, really monster knight. So don't do that. And backing up, like I said, we did see queen coming to d5. And now we have bishop to b3. This comes with the tempo. So you're kind of like, going into the trade on your own terms, knocking the queen back a little bit. So we see queen to d6. Bishop takes on e6. We see queen takes e6, and then we see d4. Just taking advantage of this pin that we have on this e-file, which isn't anything like too crazy, So we see rook a to d8. Black is putting their own pin on the situation. So we got a lot of pins going on. We see like pins coming this way, pins coming this way. We see queen coming to c2, sidestepping that pin. We got knight up to d7. We see bishop to f4. And this is really interesting. I mean, I don't think this is like a move that just kind of immediately comes to mind when you're playing this position as white. But, as you guys know, this pawn is pinned to the queen. So, I mean, we're not going to be, capturing this bishop anytime soon. So we do see f6 by black, and then we see a3 by white. Now, this position here, I want you to remember this position because we'll actually be coming back to the position after a while. But if we back up one move, we have reached a point in the game that if you want to go ahead and stop the video and see what nice move white has at their disposal, go ahead and do so right now. Okay, cool. So I didn't even see this move at all. So it's like, if you don't get this move, don't feel that bad. Because I really didn't calculate all of this. But there is actually a bishop sacrifice in the position. And like I said, it's bishop takes h6. But I know some people are probably sitting there thinking like, wait a minute, what does this amount to? Because it's like you don't have a whole bunch of pieces over here in this section. It looks like black is very well covered. But the thing about the situation is you absolutely cannot take this bishop. If you take this bishop, it is actually mating. And it's like really crazy. Like I said, I didn't see it myself. I was just like looking like, wait a minute, what's this? Like bishop takes h6. Computer was like, yeah, bro, do it. Like, I'm like, all right. So anyway, if you do happen to take the bishop, it is death because queen comes to g6 with check. King goes to h8, only move. Queen takes on h6 with check. King comes back. Then the queen comes back to g6 with check. We see king back to h8, and then we see the rook lift of the century, rook to e4. And how do you defend against rook to h4? You don't. I guess, I mean, probably... I don't even know what you even do here as black. I mean, there's like literally nowhere to move. Maybe like moving the rook up here, but that doesn't even work. Like nothing works. I don't know. Maybe I think you have to like throw the queen away. I don't even know, man. Like I didn't even go further than rook to e4. I was just sitting there looking like as black, like, nah, this isn't where I want to be. So absolutely do not take that bishop. So it was suggesting after bishop takes h6 to go queen to f7. And then you're probably just able to just kind of come back here, but you just snagged off a pawn. So that was definitely something that was in the position. But like I said, coming to the position with a3, I'm going to go ahead and proceed forward into the game, what we've seen in the game. But I will be coming back to this point because this particular position right here is relevant. So what we saw in the game was queen to g4. And then so we saw bishop down to e3. We saw pawn takes d4, pawn takes d4. We got rook f to e8. We see rook a to d1. We have knight back to e7. And then what we have in the position is actually a very, very dynamic isolated d pawn. And for those of you that are familiar with playing with isolated d pawns, you know, you guys understand that isolated d pawns can be very dynamic. You know, so you always have to, when you're black or even when you're white, you always have to take like a lot of measures on making sure you stop this pawn from moving because it can tear into your position and it can also become a pass pawn. So you never know. So we see d5, king coming to h8. We see d6, pawn taking d6, rook taking d6. We see knight back to c8. We see rook back down to d2. Or rook to d2, queen to h5, and then we see rook e to d1. And something I want to mention about the position is the fact that like white has so much like penetration in the position. Like their queen can come here, their queen can come up here at some point. You know, there's captures going on. You know, white just completely owns the d file. So as you guys can see, like these pieces are kind of clumped up. And they're all kind of serving like defensive positions, and there's not really a lot of good moves that black can actually make in the position. So we will come back to the position that I showed you before with a3 at move 18. Something that black had to do in this position is maintain this queen on this diagonal. Now it might look kind of juicy that, you know, you're kind of coming down here, you're placing a counter attack on this bishop, but the bishop could just very easily move. And so, like I said, when you have this pawn that becomes isolated here, you have to make sure that you are not allowing this pawn to get pushed like you saw in the variation that we had in the game. So maintaining the queen on this diagonal, whether it's like queen to c4 or queen to d5, even back queen to f7 was ideal. Just forgetting about the bishop because it's like, you know, like you're just throwing a threat out there really that's just easily just defended against. So you're going to be careful about throwing threats out there that your opponent can just be like, oh, I'm not even worried about that, you know, because then you didn't really do a lot, right? So in this particular position right here, queen to f7, not that. Queen to f7 is ideal. Hold on. My bad. I'm tripping. Hold on. a3 without bishop takes. Yes, here we go. There it is. Queen to f7. This is the position that we need. Okay, queen to f7 is ideal because, like I said, it does stop this pawn. Once you have these pawn trades, it does stop the pawn from moving. Because in this position, if we have bishop down to e3, pawn takes d4, pawn takes d4. You have rook f to e8, rook a to d1, knight to f8. As you guys can see, this square is fully covered from this queen and from this rook. You know, this knight is ready to kind of hop in. You know, you can even maybe move knight back over to e7 and put a little blockade on that pawn. You know, so that is like the major difference between the two positions that we saw. But getting back to what we actually had in the game, we did see rook e to d1, and then we actually see a very critical point in the game and a very critical move that is made by Wesley So, and that is a knight to e5. And this actually, unfortunately, drops an entire piece. What white does is they play rook takes d8. You try to throw in an intermezzo, which is knight takes f3 with check. Pawn takes f3. And then it is in this position that Wesley So actually does resign the game. And he resigns because the best possible thing you can do in this position is actually go bishop takes d8 to get rid of that rook. But you actually have queen takes c8. And then even if you move the bishop back, you got queen takes b7. And you are just up an entire pawn and an entire piece. And there's really nothing that black can do in this position that's really going to change that. This queen is holding this pawn. This rook doesn't really have a good way to kind of sacrifice itself on e3. You can take here, but I mean, you can either take back with a pawn, just giving yourself a better pawn structure, or you can take back with the knight, give yourself a dynamic knight. But as you can see, I mean, these two pieces, I mean, they're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna win the game for you as black. So in light of that position, after we see pawn takes f3, Wesley So did resign the game. Now I will say, you know, that Wesley So is still leading the tournament. Like, he is still in the first place. But he actually did take this loss this time. I don't really like showing Wesley So losses. I don't feel like a lot of people that, you know, watch my videos want to see it, but I think that they appreciate like honest analysis and they like to see good games. So I figured I'd go ahead and not just only show wins, but I'll go ahead and, you know, toss a loss and stuff in there since I kind of can pick and choose what I do. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, for all of my people in the Philippines, I think I might be able to get all the way through with these good mornings. Let me see what I'm looking like. So, maayong buntag, is it mayad na agahan? Yes, I'm tripping on the second one. Nainbeg na bigat, masento sa kabason, marhe na aga, buenos dias, maayong aga, mapi na uma, kapian kapuno dios, mayap abak, mayad na aga, mapia agay, mapia kapapita, my big abukla, marja na buntag, Maria mainat, Maupai na aga. I feel like I'm missing one, Blitz. Yeah, Maupai na aga and Kasanyangan CLUB. All of them. I got them. I think I went and got all of them. Yeah, I did. Because I thought there was another one between Maupai na aga and Kasanyangan CLUB, but there wasn't. So I got all of the good mornings all the way through without looking at my sheet. You see, I got all of them written down. Look at this. I've been working on this for like weeks. Okay. I appreciate everybody very much. Merci beaucoup, mes amis, and merci to anybody who's coming from Armenia. And maraming salamat po sa nanonood ing aking ma video. And I'll see y'all next time.